All right. Hey, this is Brook from Printrbot.com, and we are live on Facebook, later YouTube. So, welcome. It is, what's the time, Dave? I always like to see how late I am. What time is it? Is that the time? 4:27? We're early? Even with our Mevo dumping and we had to reboot it, we're good to go. We are on time. So we're just going to sit here for 3 minutes and not do anything. No, we're going to start the show. So what can I tell you? All right, quick update. Last week we had, it wasn't a contest, it was a giveaway for 10 interested people. And I went on and on about, hey, don't apply unless you're qualified. You can draw, you have a Printrbot, you have a printer board, etc. And we actually got more than 10, I'll just say more than 10 people immediately interested. And I started packaging up everything for you. I've got it all laid out on the table. Pardon me. I was putting together the packs, and then I realized I need Teflon from Carl. Carl uses a little bit of Teflon inside the Ubis hot ends, and he has like 20 miles of this stuff. So I want to use that for the kit and send some links of the Teflon. This was our mock-up. I'll bring it over. This was our ugly mock-up of kind of what we're thinking. And since then, man, I should have grabbed one of those. Kind of want to grab one. Dave, do you mind running out? And where I had all that stuff laid out, there was an old dual extruder with two, it's the V1, Alu V1, where you could reverse the arms. It's just sitting on the table. I don't think I bolted it together. It's kind of loose. Straight out my window in the office. Just the two, I want to show them the extruder, how it reverses. Anyway, so this was all hacked together just to kind of give a visual. And I've been talking with some guys in the community, and Mark Tromley is the one that's kind of sort of leading it up. So we want to do a dual color, a 2-into-1 Y. This is just an illustration of what we're talking about. So you have the motors hanging somewhere. You go through Teflon tubes. So we talked about what Teflon tube, and I think it's the stuff that Carl has that I need. So we can buy off-the-shelf hardware and keep everything real simple. And Dave's going to run in and I'll be able to show you what I'm shipping, but I'm waiting on Teflon tubes, so I haven't shipped those packs out. But there's some on the list that probably came in too late, but there's definitely, if you were right on the ball, it's likely. I'll send you an email next week. I'm sorry, I can't get it done this week. But we're going to ship those out with Teflon tube. And I decided to have those packs be a little more thorough than I thought at first, because what I don't want is me to send you only a couple of things. So it will entail enough to get started, as long as you have a printer board. So anyway, this is what I wanted to show you. This is an older extruder, but the cool thing about this original design, while it wasn't quite as tight on all the tolerances, so flexibles, it's not going to be for flexibles, but dual, it's just going to be dual color right now. But see how you can reverse this either way? So you just pop this little guy out and reverse it. But what's nice is it fits on this dual extruder. I got a lot of these dual extruder mounts for the Plus, lots of them. But really what we discovered was doing dual extruder on the Plus, just too hard for most people. It's just finicky, it's too hard. So we're going to 2-in-1, but we're going to do the 2-in-1, but we'll use these extruders. Some of these are lightly used, so they may have a few scratches on them, but it's free, and it does work. So we have old drive gears for these old extruders and stuff. So anyway, we're going to send you some stuff that was just sitting on my shelf, some stuff in the junk bin that we can't really refurbish, but I can give it away. So anyway, that's going to be coming next week to at least 10 lucky people. So that'll be fun. But Mark, I talked to Mark, who's kind of got me interested in this, and he's put up a GitHub, I guess, repository. I don't know what you call it, but we're going to put everything in GitHub. And then Brian Roe, engineer that used to work for me, in fact, he's going to be here pretty soon after the show, but he has designed a 2-into-1 that is intended to actually use the direct drive motor. And so he wants to play with that. He's going to give me the designs, and I'm going to play with that. So anyway, looking forward to doing more with the multicolor. But it's a project, not a product. And there's some people that live in the US that are getting some free kits. It's coming. So I will make good on that. Now, the next thing I want to tell you about some work with the Printrbelt. So this is the end of, I forget when we went on sale, Dave. Do you remember? It was the weekend, 2 weeks ago. And I put a lead time of 2 weeks, and that was ridiculous. But I always do that. I always think I can get it out sooner. And as we started printing with this is unchanged in one regard. Maybe there's a fan there now, but it's just a hack to put a fan on it. Cooling your print matters when you're printing in PLA. We all know that. Why it took me to today to mount a fan on it, I don't know. But anyway, so we've had a few issues with this, but very easy to fix. So I want to tell you what those are. Now, I'm a manufacturer that I'm not really scared of telling you the things that I do wrong because it's just how I work. And I want you guys to maybe learn from it. But I'll tell you what, I made a little video showing that this, I don't know if you can zoom in here at all, but this transition, it seemed like a good idea at the time. Turns out it wasn't. But we have this flatbed. The bed is raised above the chassis of the printer here. It's really kind of flat. Reminds me of like a scanner or something that's got the lid open. But down here, this transition is very steep. Now, at first I thought, oh, I need to round off that edge. So I did round off the edge over here. But I just don't think it's a good idea to have that steep of a transition. Here's why. You get just a little bit of, when material, and it's this stainless steel, I left this without Kapton on it to show you this stainless steel. It is so thin, I mean, this will cut you like a razor. So if you run your hand along this, it's going to hurt you. But it's so very thin. And it's actually stainless steel shim material, so it's I forget the dimensions on it, but it has a tendency to be like metal. It wants to keep its shape. So when it goes around a sharp corner, it actually bubbles and then comes down. So how do you eliminate that? You just take out the transition. So we've redesigned, I put this in a video, but we redesigned this, and this actually isn't even the final version. We built this and I wanted to change like 5 more things. But right here is the transition now. So you can see the difference in transition. This being very, very sharp, which is actually really good for the peel, but very bad for, right where you're printing, right here. Now, we have also discovered that right now I have the tip coming at a very sharp angle right over the transition over on that beta printer belt. But what Bill told me is like, hey, don't, move away from the edge a little bit so things can settle in here on this flat part. So when you go across here, it's very, very flat. It's gotten past the transition. We've lowered that angle to only like a couple of millimeters, 2-3 millimeters off of the roller. We've increased the size of the roller, which we were tensioning this so tight, we were starting to pull the ends of the belt apart, and it was put together with Kapton tape. So our Kapton is very high quality. I don't remember how many microns thick it is. Do you, Dave? The Kapton tape, how thick it is? It's thick. We got a bunch of other people's Kapton, and that was crap, and ours is awesome. So just because it's thicker. 5 mil. Anyway, so I mean, people, you can get thicker, but anyway, so I had to tension so tight to get over that transition problem. This allows you to not require such a tight tension. So it just lets it lay flat, and we have it, instead of tensioned on the edge here, it's tensioned right now like this. Now there's still a couple of parts that I want to, actually Steve's redesigned them. So this is a little bit simplified, and you basically will have one screw right off the edge here, and you tighten this side and tighten this side, and we're going to have to put a little window in this. If this ever becomes a kit, there's going to be a window so you can see how much, like, you know, little lines of how much you're moving the tension on that side. But really, what you want to do is tension it until, see, that side's tight, that side's loose. You see that? So this actually needs to come down, which is good that it's like this. So that's tight as a drum, and now I'm pulling down on this to increase the tension. Tight as a drum. This is too loose. See all that movement? So this whole change is going to allow us to have less tension on the belt, so there's not going to be as much friction. Now, just a tip, if you're making your own, and I'm going to release the files for all of these little caps and stuff, and I think we're going to have to sell this top piece as, maybe we will put together a kit, but I want you guys to be able to play with this if you want to. But there's some printed parts in here, off-the-shelf aluminum tube, off-the-shelf shim material. We put it on just a little wooden frame to get it off the table because otherwise it sits on the roller. So anyway, I'm excited about letting some of you guys build one like this and put it on your printer. That's why I have this is an old Beta Plus. So if you can imagine with me why, and by the way, the one that I'm going to show the plans to and sell, it doesn't need to be this long. I think it might even be smaller because this is massive. But if you can imagine, if I could attach this to the bed, trying to hold it at the right height. I wonder what I have that would hold this up. Hold on. We'll hack. Oh, I got caught in my cord. Am I still okay? All right. Just to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. Okay. So if you can imagine this being affixed to the bed of an existing printer, let's say we got the angle right, which I haven't, but kind of cool. Okay. So you could take a bed like this and put it on an existing printer. So, and here's what would be weird. I just talked this through last week, but I wanted a visual this week to show you what I'm talking about. So on my printer, and every printer is a little bit different, but my printer, you know, it would do this. First of all, you'd have to lower it to touch the bed. Okay, so there it is touching the bed. In fact, it's a little bit too far on this side. You just move that up. Okay. So it would touch the bed over here, and you'd lock your Z in. And then it would be, I'm trying to hold it up. Anyway, it would go like this, back and forth. Now, when it needed to move forward across the print, because it grows, you know, at an angle, this would have to move. So your window of print area would be kind of small in this plus, but we could move it up and take better advantage of the angle. So theoretically, let's move this up even further. Now again, every hot end's a different length. Like this is a 13S. Our HF is a little bit longer, so it gives you more clearance because I'm no good if I'm hitting the back here. If I tilt this up so high, it can't get through that opening. So it's going to have to get through the opening. But now I've increased the angle, and so now we have a triangle or a box here at the end that's looking a little bit closer to what this would do. So anyway, the cloud software, I put out a question to Bill if you're going to be able to change the angle in the Polar 3D cloud. And originally he said that he could set it to whatever. I'm assuming that meant that he'll do it in the cloud, but I don't want to hold him to that. He is planning on releasing a free plugin for one of the free host softwares, and maybe more, but you know, initially it might just be one. We've got it in Repetier Host right now, and it's slicing with Cura. So those free plugins are a little bit painful to use because it's a host plugin, the cloud is so much easier, and I'm sure there'll be a fee for that. I know I'm going to pay a fee for these so that my customers can use them. But anyway, retrofit is a possibility. I wanted to illustrate that today. So, will this be available as a kit? I'd like to publish the plans, so I won't, let me rephrase. I will not only like to, I will publish the files for this so people can make their own if they want. But to make the bed on the top here, you kind of got to commit to a heat bed, which is the one I sell, is the one I would design for. And it's probably going to save people a lot of time if I do offer some sort of a kit. I may limit it, though. And I may change the size, and I'm just not making any promises because the plans will be there. But if it were me, I would want to buy the kit from somebody so I don't have to go chasing down all the parts. Will I support it and get you to, help you get to printing on it? No, I will not. I will not do that. If I forgot some hardware, I'll ship you hardware. But this is going to be a retrofit to whatever you have, which you may or may not have bought from me, so you're on your own. It's essentially a conveyor belt, but it's just replacing your Z-axis. So if this thing turns, I'm good. And you will actually plug this into your Z stage on your printer. You got to get it at an angle. You got to fix it to the bed. You got to make sure it moves, doesn't tip over like that Plus would if you did it. And then you're off to use the free plug-in and go where no man's or woman's gone before. All right. Why does there need to be an angle between the nozzle and the belt? Why does there need to be an angle between the nozzle and the belt? Well, I'll be frank. There's a patent on a conveyor belt. You can go read it. MakerBot has a patent on just adding this to a moving platform, and read the patent. Because really what we've done is instead design a new style of printer around a Z stage, completely independent. Even if you retrofit this on a Printrbot, you would eliminate the Z stage and replace it with the belt. That's why it doesn't violate the patent. So if you want to use this in some other fashion, that's fine, but I'm not, you see why I can't help you with that? I'm not going to help you violate a patent. So these belts are intended to play around with this in a rep wrap style fashion. That's why. Does this type system eliminate bed leveling? Well, sort of. It eliminates bed leveling and takes us back a little bit to the Stone Ages. So you have to make sure, and me as a manufacturer, that's why I redesigned this bed, because I wasn't able to level. My first idea was springs on the bed. How are we doing on time, Dave? First, I put springs on this bed, and the tensioner compressed the springs. Way too many moving parts. Then I thought, well, I'll just rigidly mount it to the chassis, and I had 4 little tabs that it mounted to the chassis with. Well, the problem with that is when you got 4 tabs, theoretically with different bends, again, we're using our old press brake in-house to do our 90-degree bends. It just wasn't exact enough. So what I did instead was made sure everything rides on the Z. I'm sorry, on the plate. So everything comes off of this plate on the top here. And now there's no more aligning with levels or whatever, so it's much straighter. So we'll align this whole plate to the chassis on 4 mounting points. It'll be a thermal barrier hanging off of this. And if we need to shim it or adjust it to make sure that this stage, XY stage, is completely parallel to where it touches this bed, that's up to me. So there's no auto leveling because you can't move the Z to, there's none of that anymore. So how do you adjust your layer height on Z? Well, this is how we're doing it. On the carriage, since the Z meets the XY stage meets the Z at an angle, what we're going to do is actually have a screw, it's pretty old school, that gets longer or shorter. And so when it hits the end stop, it'll be a certain distance above the bed. Well, if you want it closer, you just put that screw in a little further and it's going to be a little closer. If you want it further away, you pull that screw out and it's going to be up a little further. So it's a screw adjustment on your extruder carriage that will trip the end stop and stop it physically where you want it to be. So the XY stage and the Z here will have to be parallel from the factory, and then you'll be able to adjust it. Now there is a little bit of adjustment, like a millimeter of adjustment just in loosening the screws and so it's not really elegant yet, but it does work, as you can see. By the way, I designed this itty bitty little sword, and I've got it printing here. Now that I think about the drawing, I'm not sure that's going to be long enough to go off the end of the bed, but my intention is to start doing some stuff that come off the end of the bed. I'll have to put a little platform here. I know you've seen the black belt rollers and whatnot, but it doesn't really matter. I watched one of these fall off today, and it was funny because it came out and then went down a little bit, and then it just started traveling down that incline, so I just kind of looked around, reached in and said, pushed it off. So the new model actually doesn't have this gap, so this could fall in there right there on the beta. That's no good. I want it to actually get out of the way. But anyway, so I'll have a little platform here that I'll rig up if this goes long enough to squirt off the end there. Now, need any beta testers? I operate CNCs and 3D printers for a living. That's pretty awesome. First of all, my gut, can you undo that? I want to see that again. First off, let's take that in two parts. Need any beta testers? My gut reaction to that is usually no, because I think sometimes it's code for, can I have a free printer, please? It doesn't always mean that, by the way. But so I've been jaded enough after 6 years to kind of think that. But then I read the second sentence, I operate CNCs and 3D printers for a living. So we got somebody with superpowers, because that takes talent. How do you operate 3D printers for a living? What job is that? I don't even have that job. I don't get to operate them for a living. I just make them, and then other people operate them. You can see I was lagging a little bit on getting this thing to print, so you can tell I don't operate them for a living. I have Jeremy to thank for this mostly. Anyway, so do I need beta testers? Well, here's the deal. I'm not doing a Kickstarter on something like this. It's a new idea, but if I make them one at a time, it's not a big risk for me. I already have equipment to build. I already have sourcing channels, so I can actually build 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 pretty slowly and not have a big investment. I don't really need a Kickstarter anymore. I don't like using Kickstarter as a marketing engine. So yes, I am reliant on us beta testing in-house, but really some of my first customers are kind of going to end up being beta testers, and I'm just being honest. This isn't going to be 100% baked. This is printing right now. It prints. Actually, I'm going to show you some of my failures this week. But in the end, we actually got really good prints. So it's ready to go to our first purchasers, but it's going to come with a note from me saying thank you. And I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to come with thank you, and here's how to get in touch with me if you have any questions. It's just like with customer service. I told customer service, if you have a customer with a Simple Pro, when those things launched, I am very interested how that's going. Is there anything I can improve? Is there anything I can make better? Because here's the beauty of making 1, 2, 3 at a time. I could make 10 of these, sell them, ship them, make sure I'm in contact with those people, and say to them, if you need anything, I'm your man. They tell me, hey, we want to move this screw hole. You know what, on 10 through or 11 through 20, I can change that screw hole and send it to the next 10 people actually a little bit different. Now that drives customer support crazy because things are changing a lot. But if we iterate often, then we're continually improving our product. That's a very different way of doing business than like Ford. We're going to send out 5 million Ford Escorts, showing my age. And everybody gets the same one and they're all flawed. But so as long as I make it right to the customers that came first, I think it's equitable and it works. So do I need beta testers? No, I'm not going to give away free betas. I've actually made one, maybe. I found a guy, Barnacles or Barnacules, his Twitter handle. He has quite a following, and he seems like a really smart dude. So he's going to get a loaner, but I'm going to pass that loaner on to somebody else. So anyway, do I need beta testers? Yes, I need people to buy this printer and beta test it. But I'm not calling it a beta because I don't want to change it. I've lived with it for weeks now. And what we're going to make next week, I've still got some changes that we made today that I want to do next week. So at the beginning of next week, we should be rolling these off the presses. And we're going to print with them for a while to make sure they print as expected. And then we're going to start shipping them. So they're not betas, they're shipping models. And it's right in time with Bill. Bill mentioned, he emailed me today and he said, hey, made great progress on the Printrbot Cloud. He's using his Printrbelt with it. Understand it may not be fully, all the wires may not be connected yet. And he had a couple of little modules he needed to rewrite. So it's going to be nick of time. When I'm ready to ship, he'll be ready to go with the cloud. So I asked him, what if I do these kits? What are they going to use? Well, luckily, you'll use a free plugin for an open source host. And then hopefully you will, I don't know yet if all the details on this, but I'm really recommending to him that he sell a license to the cloud that he is doing. Since I'm essentially going to be paying a fee too, I think everybody should have options to do that. And then if you got one of these and you get it working on your printer, this will come with it. But if you made your own or you do your own, take my designs and do your own, and you don't like using the free plugin, you want more integration where you can drop in multiple files and it's printing and you're doing manufacturing, desktop manufacturing, you may want to pay the money to make it easy. Because that's his goal is to make it easy. Like even if you're printing 3 of these and you think, oh, I want to print one of these, it's going to put that in the queue. And then I'm going to do one of these, and then I'm going to do one of these. So imagine the ease of that. You won't get that with the free plugin. You're going to have to manipulate things and jump through hoops. I don't really know, but I know right now I am. Okay, so that's that. Now, if you got a question, ask it quick, because I'm planning on stopping in about 5 minutes or so. I think I talked about everything. I just wanted to show you, in full disclosure, we built this machine. I, in all of my wisdom, grabbed a 45-watt beta, early alpha, really, model of Carl Ubis's, it was a 44-watt Ubis HF. We had 33 watts and ish, and we had 45 watts, and I was testing both. Well, I grabbed the one that we decided not to make. And then I turned down a tip, because you got to have more conical, the tip that we have right now needs to be turned down a little bit. So Carl's going to be making custom tips for this Printrbelt. But anyway, so I lathed it down, or turned it down, and I put it in there. And when I put the Ubis HF Alpha 45 watt back together, I screwed it up. I didn't read my own instructions. So we were having some skipping on the extrusion. It turned out to be, I put it together wrong, and it was having heat creep. So in some of these models, you were getting where you can tell it skips when it has this little gap in the filament. Now also, the surface on this isn't that nice. Are you zoomed in on this at all? These were some of the first ones. And then these. Now there's one in here. Which one is it? I think it's this one. Doggone it. There was one in here that got really good looking, and that's when I turned a fan on it. So, duh. And this model right here looks really nice because the fan's on it. So one problem was I screwed up the hot end, but that's obviously a no-brainer. That just put a new hot end on it. So we fixed that. Then we started blowing the fan on it, so that was a really nice surface. And then I looked at the model, and can you see it's kind of leaning forward? This model is supposed to have this line completely vertical, 90 degrees from the bed. Oh, that's how you can tell the difference in this. Some of these, some of the stick on the bottom is different. Look at this. I don't know if you can see this, Dave. It's kind of hard to show. Can we settle for that? Is that? Okay. So like, look at this one. That's kind of crappy. This one isn't too bad, but there's like two big bad areas there. This one we're almost there, but a little bit of something on the front. And then this one, and by the way, you're seeing glue stick on the bottom of these. It washes off. This one is like totally flat. But there was something going on in the software, and I got to get with Bill to figure it out. He was using a 0.3 layer height, and I said, well, I'm going to go 0.4. And for whatever reason, that 0.4 layer height, I don't know if it was something with the plugin or I did something wrong, but it wanted to print 0.3 layer height instead of 0.4. So I was getting all this extra extrusion building up and this lean, and anyway, all that to say, we finally, first we printed that, wait, that's the bottom, had a little bit of a lean. Then we figured out 0.3. No, it's not that one, because that didn't have a fan on it. Where's the bottom? Okay, that's the bottom. There does seem to be just a slight tilt to this, so I don't know that we totally got it dialed out. But that one right there was, hey, Brian. So anyway, that one turned out good. So we've gone through our trials with the settings on this plugin, but that's all going away soon because the cloud's about to be done. All right, new things are coming to the smalls, question mark. What are we talking about, Dave?
I think the question is, do you have any upgrades in the works or any smalls news other than what's already available? So, I mean, the only thing
Do I look like a deer in the headlights right now? Because that's what I feel like.
maybe get you started on the path.
Yeah.
The limited edition is not so limited in quantity, so that might be something.
Okay, so here's some news on the smalls. So I released the smalls with a couple upgrades. You could get the Z upgrade. You could get it was kind of like same as the Play Y upgrade. We like whoop, 90 degrees, and it's the smalls X. Anyway, so we had those upgrades. And then I also had to do the LE because I wanted linear rails in mine. In fact, that's why Brian's here. His son's going to get one of the smalls LE. Well, so when you got all these options, sometimes people are like, what do I buy? What do I buy? What do I buy? Well, I'll tell you what they're not buying. The precision upgrades, they're just not selling. And the Z upgrade, really, there was like a big peak and then they're not selling. So those are going away. That's it, the end. Those are going away. No, I think they're already away, aren't they?
There's one precision upgrade left.
I think it's shipping to a customer, though, I'm pretty sure. Maybe. I could be wrong. But anyway, so we're drawing that down. So the smalls is still available. Will I have it with the Printrbelt on it? But the LE is not going anywhere because that's really the best one of the whole lot. That's a great printer. I'm going to keep that around for quite a while. So that's the story. I don't know if that's enough, Dave. Is it?
Yeah, it wasn't a specific question.
Okay. The other thing too is I want to encourage people to consider, and I may just pull the trigger on this eventually. Don't use the printer board. Use the Printrbot G2. Because all printers actually run much more smoothly with that firmware and those electronics. And we're working on our cloud right now to add in some features that were broken and we took away. We didn't really take them away, they didn't work. We're adding them back in. We're looking at maybe even switching to Slicer instead of Cura. Not anything you need to know, it's behind the scenes stuff. But my dream is to have our cloud work with any size printer, any size tip, so that's more useful to people that want a simpler experience. So we're working on that, and you'll need the G2 board and a touchscreen that's on the Pro to really make that a pleasure to use. By the way, next week is our goal to get the $800 bare bones Simple Pro in stock, and I may have to do version that also has a heat bed, but no hub, no cloud. So some people don't want the hub or the cloud, so why make you pay for it? Anyway, so pricing and all that, I'll figure it out next week. Anyway, to add a heat bed on the smalls, LE. Yes, you buy a heat bed and you add it. How would you add a heat bed, Brian?
Buy a heat bed and add it?
So, yeah. Oh, that's, okay. So here's the problem with that. The Pro has a, no listen though, the Pro has linear rail underneath the metal that you're printing on. So where do you put the heat bed? Well, on the Pro, we put it on top of the heat bed and then put a flex plate. So I absolutely could put the Pro, I'm only coming up with this now. No, I've actually had this thought, but I hadn't designed it or tried it. The heat bed upgrade for the LE would have to be literally the Pro, the size of the Pro bed, because it also has linear rail underneath. You'd have to mount the Pro heat bed on top if you wanted to add in the, and that's a 6x8. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. It's 6 deep and 8 wide. So if we want to do a heat bed for the LE, it'll have to come with the Pro heat bed, and I recommend the flex plate on top too, and the magnets and all that fanciness. Is that for sale yet? No, just thought of it. So maybe we should do that. But we haven't sold a lot of LEs because it was limited edition, and now I'm telling you it's not limited anymore. What are we going to call it? Unlimited edition? I cracked myself up. To the what? To the number that we. Yes, everything is truly limited. Well, anyway, I've gone over. I thought I was going to leave at 5, and now it's 5:03, so I've overstayed my welcome. And oh yeah, dude, I'm so glad Brian's here. Come around here. You guys miss Brian, I know you do. What are you doing and why?
I am playing with adding a...
I talked about the little contest we had. I'm going to give away 10 kits of extruder boards and printer boards. And I mentioned that you were doing a different approach, as you often do. So what is it?
So the idea that I had on the two color into one, those are all being done with a Bowden right now. But we had talked originally about how well the direct drive, the double gear extruder works on...
Do you have one?
Yeah, this is one right here. Oh no, that isn't a double gear, is it?
That's okay, but you just show them how it fits on there.
So the double gear extruder works really well on pulling the filament in automatically by itself. So the idea here is this is a 2-into-1 that has a way of fitting onto...
Oh, that's why you want one.
Yeah, the direct drive extruder, although I don't have a wrench to take it apart, so I can't do it.
That's fine. Anyway, so that'll fit there.
This will clamp onto the arm of the direct drive extruder, and it's where you bring your 2 separate colors in. So it'll require 3 motors, 2 Bowden tube drives to bring the filament to the Y.
So it's like this.
Then, yeah, like this. Oh, wow, look at this. I hadn't seen this guy yet.
Yeah, this is a mock-up.
So yeah, so these would, instead of feeding into just a Bowden style hot end feed, which again gives you troubles you have with a Bowden.
Retractions,
stuff like that. This would fit on the actual arm of the extruder, and those 2 would feed into there. And then you would have to synchronize one of the Bowden feed motors and the extruder motor would need to be synced together to feed the filament through, but you would have the benefits of the 2-color Bowden with a direct drive setup.
Dude, you think it? I guess they can sync exactly.
I don't. There's enough flex in that. Just the same reason you have trouble with a Bowden being very responsive is there's enough flex in that system that if they weren't perfectly synced, they wouldn't care.
It wouldn't matter.
Yep.
There's a little bit of slop in there, so it wouldn't matter. Wow.
And you could always leave one end possibly floating a little bit, which is another way I thought.
So the real benefit of a direct drive with two motors pushing 2 colors or materials into it is you can do flexibles.
Possibly flexibles, and just still maintain the precision we like with the direct drive. So we'll see.
So is this a 2-part clamshell?
It's a 2-part clamshell. I didn't bring a wrench to open it.
Are you gonna give me the file?
I will give you the files. Yeah, this was printed with my...
I'll get a wrench.
All right, he's gonna get a wrench.
Printed with what?
This was printed on my simple, but was with
a wrench?
Holy moly! I'm sure the one I need is probably the first one I grabbed. Pretty common size, 3mm here.
You got it. You got lucky.
This was printed on my printer, which is running a .75 tip, because I've gone to the point where I am all about strength of my parts and speed for build and not about the overall look. So this was a 7.5, but I did do it with a 0.2 millimeter.
Can you zoom in on that? Is that too far forward?
Yeah, bring it back.
So what I ended up doing here is I actually originally tried, so these two pockets are for your obviously your Teflon tube to come in. And then I originally was going to have...
Oh, did it fail? Oh, let me see. I gotta be honest. Oh, well, it deformed when it...
What were you trying, just the longest thing you could?
I don't know what the deal was.
What was it?
It was a little bitty sword.
Oh,
All right,
bummer.
so we'll hear better now, too.
Yeah.
I'll try to reprint that.
So yeah, it takes two Teflon tubes in, and then originally I was trying to splice. Remember how we talked about precision cutting the Teflon and putting them all together?
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not an easy task. So I actually gave up on the putting Teflon in here and just made a really nice small channel for the filament itself. So this little channel is size 2 millimeters for the filament, and then these two inputs are for the 4 millimeters of the Teflon. And it works really well. I was able to...
mirrored?
It's just a mirrored part, yep. And then it's got one side fits over the pivot screw, and then one side clamps on the back of the arm so that it holds it in place.
Oh, cool. So, like if I... Ah, dang it. Why don't I bring tools?
Yes, or a direct drive. Do we have a direct drive on anything in here?
I
mean, a double gear?
I got a lot of them out there. Wait, what was I doing? Oh, I
We're
wanted
gonna
this.
cut that off.
Here, I just want to see it go through.
Oh, yeah. You don't have the Bowdens, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
It travels through without any problem whatsoever. So yeah, you'd push the one in, you'd print, you'd pull this one back, push that one through,
Pull it
back,
back.
bring it back a little further.
I'm sorry.
Pull. So yeah, so I think with a firmware setup to run, like, it would be like, this is E0, and then you got E1 and E2.
Right.
So you'd run E0 and E1, or E0 and E2, and just hook them together on the same feed.
That's awesome that you designed something you've never ever used.
I haven't used it. Well,
But in theory,
I used it by hand. I had my boy run Repetier
really?
and retract it for me, and then I pulled it out and I pushed the next one in, and I had him run it in, and I was able to switch back and forth, no problem. Pull it out, push it in.
That's awesome.
So
this only fits the direct...
does only fit the direct drive, the dual gear. Sorry,
Or the gearhead.
the gearhead printer right now. Yep.
The latest one?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll try that. What a
Yep.
treat to see Brian. It's good to see you, man. All right, we're out of here. We're 9 minutes late now. But my fault. See you next week.